The ancient Mesopotamians, Sumerians, Babylonians, all those people, they wrote on clay. That was their natural activity.
What if an ancient Sumerian tablet didn't describe a myth, but a real entrance beneath the earth? Hidden in the British Museum, the text gives 3 exact clues to its location. Decades later, researchers traced them to a remote cave system in Central Asia, where Soviet geologists allegedly discovered Sumerian inscriptions carved nearly a mile underground. Soon after, the caves were sealed, the findings classified, and access disappeared. But according to the tablet, the entrance still exists. The tablet that reads like directions? Clay. Tablet K3657 sits in the British Museum collection, with a near-identical copy held in Istanbul. It was excavated from the ancient city of Nippur in modern Iraq and dated to approximately 2400 BCE. It is available to researchers who know to request it. It has been known to scholars for well over a century. What makes it different from most Sumerian tablets is its tone. The overwhelming majority of Sumerian tablets are administrative documents, king lists, religious hymns, or creation accounts. The language in those texts follows recognizable patterns that trained scholars identify quickly. K3657 does not follow those patterns. It reads more like a traveler writing down what they found on a long journey. Specific, practical. Written by someone who went somewhere, found something extraordinary, and wanted to make sure that whoever came after them could find it again. The tablet describes a physical place the Sumerians called Kur. For most of the past 2 centuries, scholars translated Kur as a reference to the underworld or the land of the dead, placing it in the same category as other ancient cultures' conceptions of what happens after death. This interpretation was comfortable and fit the general framework of how ancient peoples discussed death and the afterlife. The problem is that the language in K3657 does not match the way the Sumerians described spiritual or theological concepts elsewhere. The tablet gives physical characteristics of a real place. It describes great underground waters. It describes eternal darkness broken by stones that produce their own light. It describes a sky that curves downward rather than arching upward, and it gives 3 specific navigational clues for finding the entrance. When researchers started reading those clues as literal directions rather than spiritual metaphor, something unexpected happened. They led somewhere. 3 clues left in the clay. The 3 navigational clues in tablet K3657 have been translated and discussed by scholars working in Assyriology for decades. Each one was considered puzzling in its own way. None of them was understood as a practical direction until someone decided to take all 3 seriously at once and overlay them against real geography. The first clue describes a mountain where the sun is swallowed. This phrase stumped linguists for decades. The standard reading treated it as a poetic description of sunset, the sun disappearing behind a mountain at the end of the day. In 1967, Dr. Samuel Noah Kramer of the University of Pennsylvania made a specific linguistic observation that changed the reading entirely. The Sumerian word translated as swallowed carries a second meaning that is equally valid in the original language. It can also mean enters or goes into. The mountain where the sun enters points not to sunset, but to a specific geological feature. A mountain with an opening large enough for sunlight to penetrate deep inside during particular times of year. This is a real and locatable thing. It happens at cave entrances with specific orientations relative to the angle of sunlight at certain seasons. The second clue describes a river that flows backward into stone. The first part of this phrase is not difficult for anyone familiar with river behavior. Tidal bores, rivers pushed upstream by the force of ocean tides, were observed and documented by ancient peoples across multiple cultures. They are specific, memorable, and unusual enough to serve as a navigational landmark. The second part, into stone, adds a feature that narrows the location further. The river does not just reverse its flow, it disappears into rock. An underground river with a documented tidal reversal that then flows into a cave system is a geological feature precise enough to locate on a map. The third clue gives a distance. It says 7 days' journey from the land where bronze is born. This one requires understanding Sumerian trade economics. Bronze is made from copper and tin. Copper was available in multiple locations across the ancient Near East, but tin was rare in Mesopotamia. The Sumerians had to import it. The nearest major ancient tin sources were in the mountains of Central Asia, in what is now Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, and western China. Clay tablets from the Sumerian city of Ur document long-distance merchant expeditions traveling through the lands of many mountains to bring tin back to Mesopotamia. These were not casual journeys, they were extensively documented operations lasting months, recording landmarks and journey times along the way. 7 days' travel from the ancient bronze production centers of the region called Bactria narrows the search to a specific geographical zone. When all three clues are placed on the same map, they point to the same place. The Bronze Road nobody talks about. Before examining where the three clues converge, it is worth establishing how the Sumerians would have had knowledge of a cave system in Central Asia at all. The answer is in their own trading records. Long before the Silk Road connected east and west, a trading network existed for the purpose of moving metal. Tin specifically. Tin was the ingredient that transformed copper into bronze, and bronze was the most important industrial material of the ancient world. The civilization that controlled access to tin controlled what its neighbors could build and how effectively they could fight. The Sumerians needed tin badly enough to send expeditions thousands of kilometers to get it. Clay tablets from the city of Ur document these expeditions in detail. They record months-long journeys through mountain passes and river valleys. They name rest points, describe landmarks, and log the distances between them. They are, in function, ancient travel guides, maintained by merchants who needed to repeat the same routes reliably over many years. Tablet K3657, when viewed through this lens, stops looking like a mythological document and starts looking like what it may actually be: a traveler's account of a geological discovery made during a tin trading expedition. A Sumerian merchant or specialist traveling through the mountains of Central Asia to reach the bronze production centers found something remarkable. They went inside, saw things they had no scientific framework to explain, and wrote down what they found using the language and concepts available to them. Then they wrote down how to find the entrance in terms precise enough for the next expedition to locate it. The gods and sacred language that fill the later sections of the tablet are the conceptual framework a Sumerian scribe used to describe geological features that fell outside any category they had. The underground lights, the curved ceiling of a massive cave dome, the underground river reversing its flow. Extraordinary things get described in extraordinary language. The navigational clues come first and are written in plain, practical terms. Where the clues converge. Placing all three navigational clues on a map of the ancient world, accounting for the documented tin trade routes from Mesopotamia into Central Asia, produces a convergence that is specific enough to examine on the ground. The clues point to the Fergana Valley, a region spanning modern Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan. The Fergana Valley was a major center of bronze production in antiquity. It sits directly on the routes documented in Sumerian trading records. It is within the geographical range that 7 days' travel from the Bactrian bronze centers would reach. Within the Fergana Valley region, there is a cave system known locally as the Kanigut. In Tajik folklore, Kanigut is called the Gateway Cave. It has been known to local communities for as long as oral tradition reaches. The match between the tablet's descriptions and the physical reality of Kanigut is not approximate. It is precise across every measurable point. The cave entrance is oriented so that sunlight penetrates deep into the cave network during the summer solstice. The mountain where the sun enters is a physical description of what visitors to Kanigut observe at that specific time of year. An underground river within the cave system reverses its flow direction twice daily due to the influence of a massive subterranean lake. The river that flows backward into stone is a description of a real hydrological feature at this specific location. The cave walls contain deposits of selenite crystals and fluorite that emit a soft glow in darkness. Early explorers of the system described the ceiling at certain depths as looking like a sky of stars beneath the earth. The eternal darkness broken by luminous stones describes what someone standing inside Kanigut actually sees. And the sky that curves downward is an accurate description of what a person standing inside a cave dome 300 meters high experiences when they look upward. The ceiling curves down in every direction. From inside a cave that large, there is no other way to describe it. 4 separate descriptions in a 4,000-year-old clay tablet match 4 separate physical features of one cave system in Central Asia. All 4 of them. What the Soviet team found inside. In the 1960s, Soviet geological survey teams explored portions of the Kani Gut cave system. Their findings were documented internally and then classified. The full contents of their records were not accessible until partial declassification in the 1990s, and even the declassified material does not reveal everything. What the available records show is this: the mapped sections of the cave system extend at least 14 kilometers. Sonar readings suggested the system continued far beyond what the teams could reach directly. Geothermal activity was detected in the deeper sections. Acoustic tests found chambers whose height was estimated at over 300 meters, large enough to contain a large building with room to spare. The archaeological findings went beyond the geological ones. Bronze Age pottery shards and tool fragments were found deep inside the system. These indicated human activity at depths that casual exploration would not reach. But what stopped the team was not the pottery. At approximately 1,500 meters from the entrance on the walls of the cave, they found writing. Not symbols that resembled Sumerian writing, not markings that suggested Sumerian influence. Actual Sumerian cuneiform script, confirmed by analysis to be genuine, found 1,500 meters underground in the mountains of Central Asia, thousands of kilometers from Mesopotamia. There is no conventional explanation for Sumerian writing being carved 1,500 meters inside a cave system in Tajikistan. The Sumerians were not known to have reached Central Asia. The tablets documenting their tin trade expedition suggest they traveled to the region, but carved inscriptions deep underground in a specific cave system imply something more than passing trade contact. They imply that Sumerian speakers spent extended time inside this cave for a reason significant enough to carve permanent marks on the walls. The deeper chambers produced findings that the Soviet government considered important enough to classify and seal from further investigation. Precisely cut stone block walls inside the cave, water management channels carved into the cave floors, a circular platform of unclear purpose surrounded by Sumerian inscriptions, a stone archway manufactured rather than natural, carved with the Sumerian cuneiform symbol for Kur. Beyond the archway, sonar detected a void so large that the equipment the team was using could not map its boundaries. The seismic echo from that void suggested it extended kilometers in every direction. The largest known cave chambers in the world are mappable with standard equipment. This one was not. The caves were officially sealed in 1967. The stated reason was geological instability. The declassified documents confirmed the real reason was the architectural and inscription findings. The DNA that confirmed the contact. The archaeological evidence from the caves is supported by an independent body of evidence that was gathered through a completely different method a half-century later. A 2019 study published in the journal Nature, led by Dr. Chuan Xiaowang, analyzed genetic markers across Central and East Asian populations. The study found a genetic bottleneck in communities living in the Tian Shan mountain range, the broader region encompassing the Fergana Valley and the Kani Gut cave system. The bottleneck was dated to approximately 2400 BCE, the same period as tablet K3657. A genetic bottleneck can occur in several ways. One way is when a portion of a population leaves, spends time somewhere else, and then returns. When they return, they bring genetic material from wherever they went, producing a shift in the genetic profile of the community that is traceable in later populations. The study found that modern populations in the Fergana Valley carry genetic markers that do not match any surrounding populations. These markers most closely resemble ancient Mesopotamian DNA from Sumerian burial sites. They are not spread along the ancient trade routes the way genetic material from ordinary trade contact tends to distribute itself. They are concentrated specifically in villages near the Kani Gut cave system. The same villages maintain oral traditions describing people who came from beneath the mountain and married into local families approximately 4,000 years ago. The village of Kizil Jar, close to the Kani Gut entrance, maintains a ritual performed at the cave entrance every summer solstice. Certain families travel into the upper sections of the cave and leave offerings of bread, salt, and bronze artifacts. They recite phrases in a language they themselves no longer understand. In 2015, a linguistic researcher recorded these phrases and analyzed them. The phrases were identified as archaic Sumerian prayers asking the dwellers of Kur for safe passage and blessing. A Central Asian village has been performing a Sumerian ritual at the entrance to a cave that a Sumerian tablet describes in the original Sumerian language for 4,000 years, without knowing that is what they are doing. What the 2018 team found in 2018, after the Soviet-era seals on the cave entrance had degraded, a team of geologists, archaeologists, and documentary filmmakers obtained limited access from local authorities and entered the cave system. They traveled approximately 2.4 kilometers into the cave before their progress was stopped. Not by natural rockfall, by a deliberate blockage. The stones were arranged in a pattern inconsistent with natural collapse. They formed an obstacle rather than a random accumulation. Ground-penetrating radar showed the blockage was only 6 meters deep. Beyond it, the cave system continued clearly. The team did not have excavation equipment or the permits to use it. In the sections they were able to reach, they confirmed the Bronze Age pottery and tool fragments. At approximately 800 meters from the entrance, they found Sumerian cuneiform inscriptions on the cave walls. These inscriptions reference the same Nippur tablet directly, using the same phrases and describing the same journey into Nippur. They also contained additional text not present on the museum copy. The additional text included specific navigation warnings, instructions for which passages to follow and which to avoid, references to what the text called the breath that steals life. Modern cavers who read this description recognize it immediately. Carbon dioxide pockets and oxygen-depleted zones in deep cave systems are among the most dangerous hazards underground explorers face. The gas has no color and no smell. People who enter these pockets lose consciousness and die quickly without any warning signs. The Sumerian text was warning future travelers about a specific and lethal hazard inside the cave. The tablet was not mythology, it was a safety manual, written by people who had been inside and needed the people who came after them to survive the same journey. The excavation permits for the section beyond the deliberate blockage remain listed as pending review. The cave is still sealed beyond the 2.4-kilometer mark. The Uzbek and Tajik governments have shown limited interest in funding further exploration of a remote site with uncertain political and historical implications. What the evidence actually shows. The rational explanation for what the Sumerians described is not as exotic as the more dramatic readings of the tablet suggest. Modern seismology has mapped the Earth's interior with sufficient precision to confirm that no civilization-scale hollow space exists in the Earth's crust. The Sumerians did not find a realm of gods. They found a geological marvel. A cave system extending kilometers underground with bioluminescent minerals, an underground river with tidal behavior, chambers large enough to hold a structure multiple stories high, geothermal heat at depth, and features that fell entirely outside any conceptual framework a Bronze Age merchant would have had. They described what they found in the only language available to them, and the language of gods and sacred realms was the most accurate language they had for experiences that far exceeded their scientific vocabulary. Russian archaeologist Dr. Larisa Kulikova proposed in 2003 that the Soviet team's deeper findings were consistent with ancient Bronze Age mining and smelting operations. The circular platform as a smelting area, the water channels as ore washing systems, the Sumerian inscriptions as ownership markers or religious dedications common to mining operations. The classification of the findings may have been motivated by Soviet concerns about regional resource ownership narratives rather than anything genuinely inexplicable. The one element her explanation does not account for is the sonar-detected void beyond the stone archway. A chamber so large that sonar equipment could not map its boundaries does not fit the profile of a Bronze Age smelting operation. The largest natural cave chambers currently known to exist are large but mappable. A void extending kilometers in every direction, in every measured angle, is a different category of finding. That void is still there. The permits are still pending. A 4,000-year-old tablet gave coordinates to a hidden underground entrance, and the clues reportedly led to one cave system in Central Asia. Soviet teams found Sumerian carvings deep inside, then sealed the site after detecting something beyond a stone archway. The coordinates still work. Subscribe and stay with us for what comes next.